know more about that. During their recent raid on the attorney Michael Cohen's office, the FBI apparently was hunting for information about Stormy Daniels in the Access Hollywood tape, rather than actually anything that matters. Piers Morgan is editor-at-large of thedailymail.com, and he joins us now. So, Piers, you know Donald Trump. You worked with me, did a show with him. You've been in our business for an awfully long time. Do you want to know, does the public want to know a lot more about the president's sex life, would you say?
No, Tucker. And I like Donald Trump, but I have absolutely zero, possibly less than zero interest in hearing any more about Donald Trump's sex life. I don't want to hear about Stormy Daniels. I don't want to hear about any of the others. I've known Donald Trump a long time, and I've always taken him to be a man who's been married 3 times and has regularly boasted for 5 decades of his love of women, and he's been in the gossip columns for the entire period of 5 decades with thousands of women. The idea that somehow it's shocking or relevant to anything involving his presidency that Donald Trump is a ladies' man, I think is ridiculous. What I think you're seeing here, Tucker, and the analogy I'd use is this. I have a brother who's a British Army colonel. For reasons that completely baffle me, twice a year he goes to a river in the darkest, most remote parts of Ireland or Scotland. And he stands in the middle of the river at midnight wearing fishing waders. And he has a rod and he has bait. And he's really there, he says, to catch a salmon. But he never actually catches salmon. He catches bits of wood that smash him in the back of the head for the next 5 hours of his midnight fishing trip, or he catches little tiny minnows or little bits and pieces that float down the river.
I've been there.
Here's the point. Isn't this really what we're seeing here? The Mueller investigation was set up to catch the big salmon. Donald Trump and collusion. He worked with the Russians to fix the election. If that was true, incredibly serious, and would almost certainly lead to the end of his presidency. To date, we have seen no evidence at all that I've seen any clear, cogent evidence that he colluded with Russia to fix any election. So what we're now seeing, as it reaches its thrilling denouement, is a segue away from collusion and Russia into his sex life, into his lawyers' activities, who knows what they are. And look, let me put this caveat out there. Maybe they've unearthed some incredibly serious felony. We'll have to wait and see. My guess is they're panicking. They're desperate. They needed to nail Donald Trump on collusion. They haven't got that. They've passed this to the FBI to raid these offices, and they're fishing. They're hoping, like my brother, when he stands in that water, to catch something, anything.
But unlike fly fishing, I can say, there's nothing inherently edifying about an independent counsel investigation. Why would liberals who, just like 20 minutes ago, it seems to me, told the rest of us that the independent counsel investigation into President Clinton's sex life was inherently illegitimate, in fact, an invasion of privacy that would terrify us, and by the way, they were probably right. Those same people are now saying this is something, they're going wall to wall with it. Like, is there no principle at all? There's no pretense of principle at all?
Well, it's rank hypocrisy. And I'd also say I don't remember any FBI raids on Hillary Clinton's lawyers when all the emails went missing. And the Liberals will say, well, there's no comparison and so on. There is a comparison. If they genuinely believe there was something murky about those missing emails, wouldn't the right thing to have done would have been to do what they've done in this case and go and knock on the lawyer's door and find out what might be lurking there? But they didn't do that. So it's one rule for Trump, as it so often is, and another rule for the Democrats in this kind of situation. But there's a wider picture here, Tucker, isn't there? Which is, you use the word unedifying. It's kind of worse than that. When we've got potentially a crisis with Syria, with the Russians, and I was listening to your debate very carefully earlier. This is very serious stuff. What was the lead story in the New York Times today? Was it Syria? No. Was it Mark Zuckerberg revealing really that he didn't know very much about how Facebook works or how it may influence elections around the world, which I found pretty disturbing and shocking.
Me too.
No, the lead story in the New York Times, Tucker, was basically Donald Trump's sex life. It was that they'd raided the lawyers' offices because of an Access Hollywood tape from over a decade ago, maybe a bit of Stormy Daniels from a decade ago. I don't really care what Donald Trump did.
Well, I know, and it's degrading. I mean, the Times editorial...
a decade ago.
the Times editorial page actually said today, if the president is innocent, he shouldn't be worried about violations of attorney-client privilege. I mean, whoa. Anyway, Piers, thank you. Great to see you. And say hi to your brother for me. I support fly fishing.
Good to see you.
Mark Zuckerberg spent, as you just heard, another